Beleaguered filmmaker Zack Snyder may have had his career as a Netflix film producer come to a screeching halt when it was announced that his Army of the Dead franchise could be over. 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute, going for a ride down the side. Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Airy. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications and consider becoming a channel member. Anyone who has watched this channel or has followed me on social media know that I do not like Zack Snyder. I find his films distasteful. They lack any sort of character development. He relies way too much on his skill as a VFX director, which that has even started to collapse in recent films like Rebel Moon and Army of the Dead. But somehow he still keeps getting jobs, and one of them was he was going to do not one, but two franchises for Netflix. One, of course, being his zombie spiritual successors, Army of the Dead, which he did a prequel to, which was Army of Thieves. He did not direct Army of Thieves, he just produced it, and it was a way better film than Army of the Dead. It still wasn't that good, but it was better than his movie. Apparently, at least when it comes to Army of the Dead, that franchise appears to be over. This is according to thatparkplace.com. A report claims that Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead franchise has been scrapped at Netflix following the director's lackluster Rebel Moon films. Back in January 2021, James Hebert at EW reported that alongside Army of the Dead, Netflix had also invested in a 4-hour animated television series set in the franchise. Hebert detailed that the series was expected to dive into the plague's origin story, which is another genre departure for the project, as most zombie movies and TV shows tend to either keep the origin of the outbreak frustratingly vague, like The Walking Dead, or give/devote only a single scene to the subject, like 28 Days Later. I've done a very deep dive with the why of the zombie plague and where it starts, Snyder explained. Suffice it to say that it does come from Area 51. That's the film's opening scene. And then the whole cast is in the animated series, along with Christian Slater as the bad guy. We'll really do a super deep dive on where this zombie plague came from. Boris Kidd at The Hollywood Reporter noted in 2021 that the franchise had expanded to a sequel as well as the animated series and the Army of the Thieves prequel. Kidd detailed, on the docket is a sequel he is developing with the movie's first co-writer Shay Hatton, something he would tackle after Rebel Moon. Now, the Rap's Drew Taylor reports that plans for an animated series as well as a sequel, Planet of the Dead, have been canceled. He detailed the animated series was quietly canceled along with plans for subsequent films. While it appears this franchise has been scrapped, Snyder's wife, Deborah, attempted to spin a positive, noting that Six Flags theme parks will have Army of the Dead themes during Halloween. She said it's going to be a really cool experience. The report comes in the wake of Rebel Moon Part 1 Director's Cut failing to break into Netflix's top 10 movies the week it was released. The film arrived on Netflix on August 2nd and was unable to surpass 3.6 million views, which was how many views 10th ranked The Marksman for the week of July 29th to August 4th. The original release of Rebel Moon back in December 2023 topped Netflix's English language film. For the week, it debuted with 54.1 million hours viewed and 23.9 million views. In its second week, total hours viewed and views increased to 77 hours viewed and 34 million views. That's a 42.3 increase in total hours viewed and total views. However, by the time Rebel Moon Part 2 The Scargiver debuted in April, it only brought in 44.2 million hours views and 21.4 million views. In its second week, viewership fell to 38.8 million hours viewed and 18.8 million views. That's a decline of 12.2% in total hours watched and 12.1 drop in total views. Okay, I'm not surprised by this. This is what always happens with Snyder films. He drops a good teaser or a good trailer. He talks about it. He hypes it up. He gets his little cult on social media to go around and talk about, oh, look at what Zaddy is doing. Oh, movie me hard, Zaddy. And then it just fizzles out because the audience doesn't connect with Snyder films. He is terrible at plot. He's terrible at filling plot holes. He's terrible at world building, and he's terrible at character development. It's just a fact about him. He has done maybe two good movies, that being 300 and that Owl movie. I have to say, I think 300, it was more about Frank Miller's interjection into that movie making process than it had anything to do with Zack Snyder. That's just my opinion. All of his other movies are garbage. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it be Sucker Punch, his DC films, they are just garbage, and that includes the Netflix films. And I said at the time when it was announced that he had this weird contract with Netflix that he was going to do this. People were going to watch the first thing he did out of curiosity. It was going to get millions of views, and then it would slowly start to taper off as people realize, this guy doesn't really know what he's doing. He certainly should be proud to join the ranks of Kissing Booth and Tall Girl, but that's just my take on it. Personally, I don't think Zack Snyder is going to go anywhere. Now, I have heard a conflicting report that the animated series, which I believe is called Lost Vegas, will still be made because, according to things I have heard, Zack Snyder is going around telling people it's done. We've done the animation, we've done the voice acting, so it just needs to get released. However, Zack Snyder lies a lot. He lied during the whole release the Snyder Cut phase. He tells fibs all the time. His favorite line is that he was hand chosen by Christopher Nolan to direct Man of Steel, and we all know that's bunk. He was like their sixth choice. They went through so many. Nolan actually wanted Matthew Vaughn to do it. That's not to say that Nolan likes or dislikes Man of Steel. I don't know Nolan's take on it. Don't really care. But yeah, that's one of his most famous lies. Another one was, where he posted that Instagram picture and he's like, see, my cut is done. It just needs to be put together. It was like a film reel case. And he's like, look, there it is. There it is. And then, of course, he lied about that. They shot multiple new scenes to fill in the gaps. And it cost AT&T, which owned Warner Brothers and HBO at the time, $60 million. They just gave him a blank check, even though he claimed that movie was done. It just needed to be tweaked a little bit. What a liar. And now it could be lying that Lost Vegas will get released. I don't know. Netflix tends to take in, what can be considered the worst movies. Think 360 Days or, Cuties. Gross. I don't know why they like to pull in movies like that. Like I said, would rather give money to Kissing Booth and the Tall Girl series than great shows like Mindhunter or do a Longmire spinoff. It just boggles my mind that they just waste away all their money. I'm curious to know what Snyder will do after this because he's already burned his bridge with Warner Brothers. Disney laughed him out of The Office when he presented Rebel Moon as a Star Wars show. Remember, this was supposed to be his Star Wars movie. They laughed him out of the offices, and this was coming at a time when Disney was trying to seek out directors for Star Trek projects, and they were like, no, get away from us. We don't want you around us, Snyder. And quite frankly, who can blame them? His new grift is just going to be he's going to make a movie to release it. It's going to do poorly, and then he's going to say, oh, that's because I didn't have total control. Here's the director's cut. And his, lackeys, his cult, they're just going to follow right around. They're just going to take that chump bait for what it is because that's how it works. It's a shame because, like I said, Netflix could be really good. They have cornered the market with true crime documentaries. I think Tubi is really their only competition when it comes to true crime content. But we see way better shows on like Max, on Hulu. I won't say Disney Plus, but they could divert all these funds that they're giving to people like Zack Snyder and could make actually good content, and they could win the streaming wars. Right now, they're ahead. Others are closing in, but I have a feeling Netflix, just because you're starting to see Disney films and Warner Brothers films pop up, they might have one that's going to be determined at a later date. But whatever the case may be, I hope that this is true. I don't want any more Army of the Dead movies from Zack Snyder. He clearly cannot get it together. He did incredibly lazy world building in Rebel Moon, where he just stole from a bunch of other franchises. You saw creatures from Harry Potter. You saw knockoff characters from the Magnificent Seven. The title was taken from a video game written by Vox Day. I mean, the guy just stole basically everything in those movies. So we'll have to wait and see if this is real, because I have a feeling Netflix signed a pretty nifty contract with him, which will probably mean we'll see more Rebel Moon stuff but maybe at least not any more cheesy zombie pictures in the near future. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment and tell me what you think, and subscribe. Be sure to click that little bell if you're watching on YouTube, and consider becoming a channel member where you are going to be able to get all kinds of cool perks. Not to mention, if you don't want to support me on Big Tech, you're watching on YouTube or elsewhere, click on the link to my locals community. It's in the description of the video. You can support me there by becoming a monthly member or by giving my articles that I post on there tips. Would really appreciate it. It helps out little indie creators like myself. You can also pick up one of my novels, Blessed Child. This is the latest release. It's my fantasy romance novella. I think you're going to enjoy it. It's certainly got a better plot and better character development than any of Zack Snyder's stuff. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die